So you set up the lights, you set up the mics, your subject is in the hot seat, the camera's rolling, there's not much more for you to do. So why don't we pull up a chair, put your feet up, grab a bowl of popcorn. After all, one of my mottos is check for red and get out of the way. But what I don't mean by that is abandon your subject, for crying out loud. So what exactly should we be doing when the camera's rolling? Well, we shouldn't abandon our subject, and we certainly shouldn't be distracting them or stopping them every 30 seconds to tell them everything that they're doing wrong. Friend, today I'm going to talk you through 3 reasons why you got to get out of the way, but there are a few things that you should be doing even when the camera is rolling. And we're going to talk about that here. First up, you got to focus on the task at hand. Now, you were brought in not to be in front of the camera, but rather behind the camera. So there's some things that you should be looking out for. Now, I know that you just went through your whole checklist. You downloaded your Better Video Guide. You've got your checklist. You followed it to the letter. Everything is set up exactly as it needs to be. So you're not running around trying to adjust your light or fix your mic or turn your camera on and off. But what you are looking for is your framing, your composition. You may not be tweaking your light, but you're looking at how the light affects your subject. Is it a moving shot? Does the environment change? What about audio levels? Are you listening to the audio? Are you peaking or clipping? Does it sound harsh or distorted? These are all things. Is it too quiet? These are all things that you need to be paying attention to as the videographer during the shoot. Now, there is nothing required of you. You're not speaking, you're not making noise or distracting, but these are all the things that should be going through your mind as you're monitoring for the set to make sure that everything is happening as clearly as possible, both visually and auditorily, auditory in your ears, right? You want everything to sound good. So first and foremost, you have a job to do. It's kind of like an active listening role. Now, if you're a single videographer, right, you don't have a team with you, you're a one-man, one-woman shop, you're coming there, it's just you behind the camera, you're also wearing the director's hat. So you absolutely have to be paying attention to the subject matter, the content, right? You should have planned out either a script or a framework, some kind of outline that you've worked through with your subject to know the general flow of the content that's being spoken. So you can listen out for certain keywords, certain trigger words, certain phrases that you know are going to be most impactful. You may even be listening out for things that don't come up or were not in the script but come to you while you're filming. Now, when these ideas creep in, is that the right time to raise your hand, stop yourself? Whoa, hang on. Let's start over. Why don't you try this instead? No, we need to wait our turn. So if step 1 is to focus on the task at hand or tasks, right? If you're managing all of these ideas, these thoughts, the composition, the lighting, the sound, you're tracking all of that in real time, you need to be focused and stay in the moment. Reason number 2 that you need to get out of the way is because you don't want to distract your subject. They may not be somebody that gets on camera every single day. And so they could be walking in the room very nervous, trying their hardest to remember any one of their lines. And so it's so important that you create an environment of peace, of encouragement, so that they know even if they slip up, which they will several times, it's okay, that you're not going to hold it against them, that there's no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone. It's like Planet Fitness. They can come in there, deliver what they need to deliver, and you as the director are going to act as the coach, right? And bring them through. So you are hired to do a job. If this is a client video, you are hired to do a job. You are responsible for getting the best out of your subject, the best performance out of your subject. And again, if this isn't something that they're comfortable doing or do on the regular, it may take some additional work to bring that out of them. The last thing you want to do is stop them and say, whoa, no, we messed that up. We got to go back to the beginning. Sometimes it takes folks a few tries just to get into a good rhythm, to get into a good flow. It might make sense to just blaze through the whole script on the first go, get all the way through the whole thing, and then come together and talk about what you like, didn't like, what needs to change, and that sort of thing. In step number 2, when I talk about not being a distraction, you're going to hear things that will need to be corrected. But when is the right time to make those corrections? Well, this is why I say you always want to have a plan going into every shoot. So you should have at least a rubric, a framework, an outline, bullet points, ideally a script, but something that you and the subject have both agreed on prior to ever hitting record. And what you can look for in this script or outline are certain areas where it makes sense to take a pause, right? So if you're trying to deliver an impactful message, you don't want to break up in the middle of that paragraph or in the middle of that dialogue. You don't want to break things up and stop and try to make tweaks because it's just not going to sound natural. So identify areas where you could potentially make a cut in the editing process where it would still feel natural, and help your client get through those chunks at a time. It may be a couple sentences, it may be a couple paragraphs, depending on their level of comfortability, how much time they had to rehearse or practice this script and prepare for the video. But identify those key markers so that you can focus on little snippets at a time. And then when it comes to that break point, that pause, it will be natural where you can either leave the camera rolling or stop recording and just step back from the camera a bit. Okay, how are you feeling? Right? Do you need a glass of water? How do you think that went? Would you like to try it this way? Hey, you said this. I thought it sounded great. What if we tweak that last word a little bit? I think it would really land with your audience. Why don't we try that once and just see how it sounds for fun? You see how it becomes a bit more of a natural conversation, right? Another thing I want to point out, if you are working with a team, it could be 5 people, it could just be one other person. It is so important to have the conversation before the day of the shoot. You need to identify the single point of contact, the one person who will act as the director. The title doesn't matter. What matters is that your subject who is speaking on camera knows who they need to go to ask their questions or get their feedback from. Now, that isn't to say that the assistant or the other person in the room can't speak or share their ideas, but I would say to that person, keep your ideas in your mind, internalize them, hold on to them, okay? When you get to the break, it is then the director's responsibility to turn to you and say, hey, do you have anything, any thoughts, any ideas that you'd like to bring to the table? At which point that person can share it with the director and the director can relay that to the subject. This just helps keep this seamless flow in the room so that your subject knows who they need to be getting their direction from, and it's not confusing. Well, this guy says I should do it this way. You say I should do it that way. That gets really frustrating. Tensions rise in the room, and then suddenly you're no longer in a peaceful, encouraging environment. It starts to become a bit more hostile. So that's what we want to avoid. Now, I am going to take a pause here. I alluded to this a little bit in the beginning, but if you are a filmmaker or if you are new to video production as a whole and you want to learn more about the entire process, about identifying how to develop that script, right? Writing the message or developing that story, understanding all of the gear, how all the gear works and what to do with it, how to set it up, how to make it work on the day of the shoot, and of course, editing best practices as well. Friend, go to guidedproductions.com/bettervideoguide. You can download my free copy of the 6 steps to creating better video. And I've packaged everything that I've talked about here to walk you through the entire video production process from idea to export so that you don't have to think about those things. There's a lot that you need to be thinking about on the day of the shoot. So if I can help eliminate some of the burden, some of the stress by giving you a downloadable checklist that you can follow and check off every single time, friend, I think that's going to be super helpful for you. It's my free gift to you to say thanks for spending this time with me. Just go to guidedproductions.com/bettervideoguide or click the link in the description down below. And moving on to the third and final reason why you have to check for red and get out of the way, friend, it makes you look more professional. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but the less you speak, the more professional you sound. And this isn't a new concept. In fact, the Bible says even a fool is considered wise when he remains silent and discerning when he holds his lips. This is not a new topic. The less you speak, the more authoritative, the more intelligent, the more composed you come off to the other person. So if you are in the room, even if everything is falling apart around you, but you remain calm behind the wheel, behind the camera, friend, that is going to set your subject at ease. They're going to feel so comfortable and encouraged and know that you are driving the ship and there's nothing that they need to worry about. The last thing you want to be doing is stopping your subject every 10 seconds to tell them what they're doing right and wrong. It gets confusing, it's conflicting, it can be overwhelming and uncomfortable. That's not how you get the best out of your subject. That's not how you get the best performance and the result that they're looking for, right? even if it's hard for them, they are going to appreciate the end result, the final cut of the video, knowing that that was what they delivered. If they delivered something subpar and you didn't tell them in the moment, well, that's not good either. So going back to the beginning, the 3 reasons why we want to check for red and get out of the way is 1, you have a lot to think about as the director. The person controlling the camera, there is a lot that you need to be looking out for and listening out for while the camera is rolling. Number 2, you don't want to be a distraction. You want to create an environment that is comfortable, that's peaceful and encouraging. You want your subject to know who to go to for their direction and not be confused at any point. And of course, the last reason is simply so that you look like the professional that I know you are, that you are the authority in the room when it comes to video production, and you are going to help get the best result possible. Friend, I hope this was helpful. If it was in any way, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss more content like this. If you know someone else, another videographer or filmmaker who could benefit from advice like this, feel free to share this video with them. But with that, I'm out of here. I checked for red, so I need to get out of the way. Friend, I appreciate your time. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you on another video real soon.